What are we doing? We're going live. We'll give them a very brief moment of music. Yay, I'm live. Alright. We're getting it with that mic. I don't know why the sound is not good. And Instagram just went down. Can we say it's Monday? It's Monday! My Instagram connection is really lousy. I don't know why. Can you give people a second to get back on? I don't know what's going on.
You can purchase all of Dr. Morgan's products at
Thanks, Andrew.
www.drjudymorgan.com. Now it's time to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Okay, so we're going to start that over again. So I want to talk about pet toy safety today. Certainly we want to be worried about, think of it as a toddler. What would you buy for your toddler? You don't want toys that have small pieces that can be swallowed, be choking hazards. We don't want things with long strings. Now, for our kitty cats, this is a little bit of a conundrum because there are a lot of those toys on like a long stick or a wand that has a string on it with feathers on the end or bells on the end that we use for our cats to bat around or chase after. Those are fine as long as you are actively, physically playing with it with your cat. What you don't want to do is leave that tied onto a doorknob or something where they bat and play at it when you're not around, because if they should decide to swallow that whole string or a large piece of that string, then we have a linear foreign body. Some of the worst foreign body cases that I saw in practice were cats who ate threads or shoelaces or strings of some sort. Disaster, nightmare. And the same with our dogs. If we're buying rope toys, that we have one for the puppy that's a giraffe that is a kind of a braided rope type toy. He doesn't chew it apart, so he's not unraveling it. If he were unraveling it, it would instantly go in the trash. So we want to consider how the toys are made and what kind of chewer or player our pet is. Are they going to unravel that? Are they going to, is it something hard that they're going to break teeth? We had a big rubber ball for the puppy, and balls can be very, very dangerous. You'd be amazed the size balls that can get stuck. I had a German Shepherd once that the owner, it was a one of those pet balls that has a hole in the center with a bell buried kind of down in there. And it was about the size of a tennis ball, maybe a tiny bit smaller, but it was hard rubber. And the guy was bouncing it off the wall for his dog to catch, which that's all well and good, except the dog gulp, caught it, and it went right into his airway. Made a perfect seal in the dog's trachea, which you'd be amazed that a ball that size could get lodged in there. The guy luckily he lived close to the emergency service where I was working. He instantly threw the dog in the car because he couldn't get the ball out, ran to the emergency service. We whipped the dog in the back, and the dog had a completely obstructed airway, had been obstructed for a couple of minutes at this point. Luckily, that hole in the ball was faced outward. And so I was able, with a towel clamp, to grab a hold of that ball and pull it out. And then the dog took a big inrush of air and survived and did fine. But we got very lucky with how that ball was positioned in there and that we were able to pull it back out of there. You know, some damage and irritation to the airway, but the dog did survive it. So not a good thing. I had a friend pitching golf balls in the front yard for his dog to catch. And I said, "Are you out of your mind? That is such a perfect obstructive choker. Like, stop doing that. Do not pitch golf balls for your dog to catch face on." They're actually a bad size for dogs to chase. They're hard. They're going to break teeth. Not good. Not good. Don't play with golf balls with your dogs. Tennis balls, the fuzz on those is very abrasive and will wear down the enamel on the teeth. And since we are still in Dental Health Month, I hope you're still doing your daily dental treatments. We don't want to be wearing the enamel off the teeth. Really bad thing to do. So, in addition to choosing appropriate size, so I started to say we have this rubber ball for the puppy. which was big enough that there's no way he can swallow it, but it was just soft enough that he was shredding and ripping pieces off of this rubber ball. So it instantly went in the trash because I don't want obstruction from a bunch of pieces of rubber in the puppy's bowel. But something we sometimes don't think about. Back in 2007, nurse and dog mom Nancy Rogers had a hunch, and she hired a laboratory to test the lead content in 24 of her Shelties chew toys. The test revealed that her dog's tennis ball contained 335.7 parts per million of lead. That exceeds the 100 parts per million federal standard for lead in children's toys by 3.5 times. So when those tests were run back in 2007, there were no standards for lead or other toxins in pet toys. And 15 years later, we still have no federal regulations because they say they have bigger fish to fry and they don't really care about this. So while the Consumer Product Safety Commission checks for the safety of toys for human use, there's no mandatory or voluntary standard for pet products. Some companies that make pet toys now follow the federal standards for lead in children's toys or the European standards. Now remember, the US is 100 parts per million. European was reduced to 23 parts per million as of 2018. They're always ahead of us. So, this is a quote, and I don't know how old this article is, a couple years, I think. But they quoted the former vice president of government affairs for the American Pet Products Association. He says, "We have over 1,000 members, and we've heard no reports of dogs or cats having any ill effects from playing with any pet toy because of lead or the plastic in the toy. It may sound like standards make sense, and they may make consumers more comfortable about buying a pet toy, but there's no indications that there's a real risk to pets from lead and other toxins in their toys." Yes, this big pet product association smacks a little bit of big pet food associations that go, "Yeah, we haven't had any complaints, no problems, don't worry about it." So the Michigan-based Ecology Center, a nonprofit environmental organization that analyzes toxins in children's toys and other consumer goods, did testing on pet toys, tennis balls, beds, collars, and leashes, and found alarming levels of lead and other harmful chemicals. From the more than 400 pet products tested, 45% had detectable levels of one or more hazardous toxins, including arsenic, chlorine, and bromine. Studies have linked these chemicals to reproductive problems, developmental and learning disabilities, liver toxicity, and cancer. Of the tennis balls tested, 48% contained detectable levels of lead. Researchers discovered that tennis balls made specifically for pets were more likely to have lead than sports tennis balls. The lettering on one pet tennis ball, for example, contained a whopping 2,696 parts per million of lead. 2,696. Remember, we said 23 parts per million is where we want to be, or less. 2,696. And 262 parts per million of arsenic, a known human carcinogen. Curiously, none of the sports tennis balls contained any lead. So while 1/4 of all the products tested had detectable levels of lead, 7% of all pet products had lead levels higher than the 300 parts per million. Nearly half of the pet collars tested had detectable levels of lead. 27% had lead levels that exceeded the 300 parts per million. Pet products are far more likely to have hazardous chemicals than children's toys. So their tests illustrate why chemical safety standards are needed for chew toys and other pets. The standards would not only protect pets, but also young children who might put the pet toys in their mouths. I see that at my house. For lead, the standard that applies for children's toys is appropriate for pets. I'd say the standards for children's products should at least be a starting level for those products. They questioned veterinary toxicologists, and of course they said, Long-term excessive exposure to heavy metal could cause health problems in our four-legged friends because they like to chew on things, lick things, carry things in their mouths, and if there are excessive amounts of lead in a toy, they can get overexposed to lead. Lead can do a number of things to our pets depending on how much they're exposed to and for how long. Some health problems associated with lead toxicity include vomiting, weight loss, anemia, seizures, and permanent neurological damage. Depending on how much exposure there is and the duration, it can affect multiple organ systems. Remember the pet tennis ball that had more than 2,000 parts per million of lead and more than 200 parts per million of arsenic? They're considered higher than the maximum tolerable dietary levels in dogs. The other levels of other toxins found in pet toys tested by the Ecology Center, including traces of chromium, antimony, and up to 166 parts per million of the flame retardant bromine. But the toxicology centers say that they have not received complaints about this and have not gotten, haven't produced toxicology reports on any cases. But again, how would we know if our pets, maybe if you're doing hair analysis, maybe you would see that there's elevated levels. So the American Pet Products Association maintains its members are vigilant about the safety of dog toys and other pet products. The trade group says many of its members have adopted their own chemical standards using the European or United States lead levels as baselines. There's kind of an informal standard going on now. Well, for some companies maybe, but not all, unfortunately. The Consumer Product Safety Commission has no jurisdiction over pet toys. They're underfunded, overworked, have no interest or inclination unique to pet toys. They're looking at children's toys, so getting some standards for pet toys is not an option. That's what they said. So I found another study. It says lab tests finds lead and other toxins in pet toys sold at Walmart. This is from 2007. Maybe things have changed a little bit, but I know that a lot of things have not changed since then. So they tested 2 Chinese-made pet toys. Actually, they tested 4, and 2 of them contained levels of lead, chromium, and cadmium. One of the toys was a latex, looked like a green monster, kind of a soft toy. Tested positive for high levels of lead and cancer-producing chromium. A cloth catnip toy, don't think your kitties are out of the woods, also tested positive for a tremendous amount of the toxic metal cadmium. They analyzed 2 other Chinese-made pet toys, a cloth hedgehog for dogs and a plastic dumbbell toy for cats. They detected cadmium in the toys and said the levels were about the amount you'd find in 1 cigarette. Forensic toxicologists described the levels of heavy metals in the toys as potentially toxic and said they should be pulled off the market. They weren't. Or put a warning label on them that says if you put this toy in your mouth, you'll get poisoned. They didn't. Lead goes to the brain, causes learning disorders in children, is implicated in high instances of heart attacks. Interesting. Chromium is a cancer-producing agent. It can cause cancer in the bladder and kidneys, and if inhaled, cause cancer in the lungs. There's nothing good about chromium, and cadmium is a horrible thing to get into the body. It creates havoc in the joints, kidneys, and lungs. So they found 907 micrograms per kilogram. I don't know what that transfers into parts per million of lead in that 1 green monster toy. And the chromium was 334.9 micrograms per kilogram, and said it was an extremely toxic toy if the animals put it in their mouths. Toxic burden is toxic burden. You're increasing the burden on the animal by having these in there. A dog is going to get a good dose of chromium and lead from this toy. They also detected other toxic metals in the green monster toy, including cadmium, arsenic, and mercury. And those metals came off the toys freely, just with a lick of the tongue. They didn't dissolve them. They didn't leach them out of there. They were readily, these metals were readily coming off of the toys. A veterinarian from Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine said the risk to dogs and cats from these toys depends on how much of the heavy metals are absorbed into their bodies. The thing is, heavy metals accumulate. They don't come in and then go out. They accumulate in the body. He said that most animals require 30 parts per million of their total daily diet before you get into a problem with lead. Cadmium is more than that. Well, if they're chewing on this toy every single day and it has 2,696 parts per million, it's a little higher than 30. So, all right. And this group shared the lab findings with the FDA, and their spokesperson says they don't regulate toys for pets, and she's not aware of any governmental agency with regulatory power over these products. So, I've got another article, BPA-free and non-toxic toy labels, what does it mean? So, there is no body that regulates them. So we're going to talk about BPA, which is short for bisphenol A. It's a chemical used in the manufacturing of polycarbonate plastics. According to the CDC, BPA is found everywhere, from beverage containers and food can linings to car parts. Both humans and pets are generally exposed to it through food and drink containers. What are phthalates? Phthalates are a group of chemicals sometimes called plasticizers, which makes plastics more flexible. These are found in a lot of plastic packaging, toys for children and pets, and storage containers. As with BPA, exposure to phthalates mainly comes from food and drink that has been stored in plastic containers or through toys that are placed in the mouth. Labels that read BPA-free or phthalate-free imply that the company has tested its materials to ensure they are free of these chemicals. And if you don't know, the best, and if it doesn't say, the best thing is to contact the company directly, the maker, the manufacturer of the toys. So in 2003-2004, the National Health and Nutrition Examinations Survey done by the National Institute for Environmental Health Sciences, the CDC did a study that found detectable levels of BPA in 93%, and we're talking a lot of years ago, so it's higher now, of 2,517 urine samples from people 6 years and older. So we are all exposed. It's in our bodies. It's in our pets' bodies. A number of studies have shown the chemical to be an endocrine disruptor, meaning it can alter hormones. So we have fertility issues, altered thyroid hormone levels, increased risk of diabetes, and oh yeah, Cushing's disease, which is rampant. A 2013 study showed that products intended for chewing and mouthing by dogs often contain BPA and phthalates. A more conclusive study conducted just last year indicated that BPA in canned dog food and cat food also has an impact on pets' BPA levels, introducing changes into their gut microbiome. The amount of BPA in the canned food is likely more significant than the amount in toys. All right. So there are some companies that make BPA-free, phthalate-free, and latex-free food-grade plastic that is FDA compliant. So if they're using all of that to make their toys, then you found a good toy. We think, we hope. So it's really hard. Just like everything else, this is sort of a buyer beware. I would say if the toy has a very strong petroleum type smell, then it's probably got the fire retardants in there. It's got unhealthy plastics in there that are kind of off-gassing. So avoid things that have that strong petroleum chemically smell. Low price point, you know, if it's being sold at the dollar store for $1, there's a good chance there's no testing, there's no quality control, probably coming in from China. And the problem with China is that a lot of their factories are really, really old. A lot of the water that's used in the production is very contaminated, and there's just not the quality control over it. So be careful where you're getting your toys, and definitely, if you're concerned and you have a pet who is, playing and chewing on their toys all the time, contact the manufacturer of the toys and ask them, do they do any testing? Where are things sourced from? What kind of dyes are they using? Are they using natural products? Are they using food grade products? Where's that stuff coming from? Okay, don't mean to scare you, just telling you to be aware. Okay, everybody have a wonderful day. I got lots more work I gotta go get going on. I've got this boss who's a slave driver. I don't know. Maybe I should go on strike. Everybody have a wonderful day.